Okay, we are going to be discussing percentages. So how to change a percentage into a fraction, and then how to change a percentage into a decimal. So let's take a look at some examples here. So what I want you to drill into your mind right off the bat, anytime we see a percentage and we're trying to change that percentage into a fraction, we can just take the value of the number and place it over 100. So in this case, 15%, just going to be 15 over 100. Now same with these next two percentages, 84.2%. Even though there's a decimal, we can just take this entire number, 84.2, put that over 100. Now, we need to make this look a little bit better. So we want to change this into a whole number. Now, the only way we can do that is to move our decimal one place to the right. So now just keep in mind, whatever you do to the top or your numerator, you need to do to the bottom, which is the denominator. So we moved the decimal one place to the right here. If we're looking at the whole number 100, remember whole numbers are always to the left of the decimal point. So we're going to be moving this decimal one place to the right. So that would leave us with 842 over 1,000. Now we could further reduce that. Just like here, we could have, further reduced this as well. So make sure you're reducing to the lowest fraction. Now this one, we have a decimal percentage. It's still a percentage, so all we have to do is take this number, 0.015, put that over 100. Once again, this doesn't look right. We have a decimal inside of a fraction, so to make that look better, this number, we need to move the decimal 3 places to the right. We want to do the same thing with the 100 here. So 3 places to the right. So this would become 15 over 100,000. So very small number here. Once again, we could reduce that by at least dividing by 5. I just wanted to show you, anytime you have a percentage, changing it to a fraction, just take that number, put it over 100. Now, let's look at changing these numbers into decimals. So in this case, we have 15%. So anytime you see a percentage, the rule here that we can use is to divide by 100, or same thing, just move your decimal 2 places to the left. So in this case, 15, the decimal is after the 5. We're moving this 2 places to the left. So in decimal form, that would be 0.15. Now, we can verify that by looking at this fraction here. Remember, reading this would be 15 hundredths. Well, see if your decimal looks like that as well. So this is the tenths place. This is the hundredths place. So we have 15 hundredths. Now, looking at 84.2%, once again, you divide this by 100 in your calculator, or just move your decimal 2 places to the left. So this would now become 0.842. And then looking at this one here, 0.015%, we're going to move our decimal 2 places to the left, or just take this number and divide it by 100 in your calculator, either way. And we are left with 0.00015. Now, another thing that you can take a look at to confirm these in your calculator, remember our fractions can always be looked at as a division problem as well. So 15 hundredths, we could take 15 divided by 100. That would give us 0.15 in our calculator. Same thing with these two fractions. If we entered these as a division problem, we should be getting this decimal as our answer as well. So I'm just going to walk you through 3 more examples just in case you need a little bit more practice here. So let's go from a percentage directly into a decimal. So remember, percent to decimal, we divide by 100, or just move that decimal 2 places to the left. So we would have 0.12. Now, I want to change this into a fraction. So we can go back to what we learned earlier, where we read the number here. So we have 12 hundredths here, because this is the tenths, this is the hundredths place. So we could write that just as it sounds, 12 hundredths. Or we can use the percentage rule, which is anytime you see a percent, just take that number and put it over 100. Now the second one here, 0.25%, we want to change that into a decimal. Just move your decimal 2 places to the left, so 0.0025. Now if we want to change that into a fraction, we can either read this number how it sounds. So remember, this is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths. This is the 10 thousandths place. So we would have 25 10 thousandths. Or if we use the percentage rule, remember, just take the value of the number here, so 0.25, and we always put that over 100. Now, this looks a little weird. We can't have a decimal in a fraction, so we want to make this a whole number. Move our decimal 2 places to the right. Whatever you do to the top, we have to do to the bottom as well. So if we write this out, it would still be 25 over 10,000. All 4 of these numbers here have the same value, they're just expressed differently. All right, now this last one here, 75.8%. We want to change this to a decimal. 2 places to the left gives us 0.758. Now to change that from a fraction into a fraction, we can either read the number here. So this is my tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. So this would be 758 thousandths. Or if you chose to go the other way, just directly from the percentage, we could just take our number here, 75.8, put that over 100, and then move our decimals, which would still give us this number here, 758 thousandths. So going from a fraction into a decimal, so we learned earlier, anytime you have a fraction, you can just look at this as a division problem. So 5 divided by 6, you can use your calculator here. So 5 divided by 6 gives us 0.83, and that 3 is repeating. So I'm just rounding to the nearest hundredth here. Now, if I wanted to change this decimal into a percent, so going the other way, decimal to a percent, we're going to multiply by 100 or move our decimal 2 places to the right. So in this case, we would have 83%. Keep in mind, I just rounded this number. If it asks you to round to the nearest tenth, in your percentage, it would have been 83.3% because this was continuing to repeat. You should see that if you did that along with me in your calculator. Looking at the second one here, we have 11 fifteenths. So 11 divided by 15 would give us 0.73. That is also repeating, so I'm just rounding to the hundredth. Now to go from a decimal to a percentage, we multiply by 100, or just move our decimal 2 places to the right. So that would give us 73%. And this last one here, 9/13. So 9 divided by 13 would give us 0.6923. It just keeps going on, so I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth, 0.69. Now to change that into a percentage, multiply by 100, or just move our decimal 2 places to the right. So give us 69%. Now this last example here, we have a fractional percentage. So the easiest way to do this to start out, convert this fraction into a decimal first. So if you take 3 divided by 4 in your calculator, that would give us 0.75. Keep that percentage on there because we're still in a percent. Now we want to go into a decimal. We're going to divide by 100, move our decimal 2 places to the left. So 0. So you can see there 0.075. That would be our decimal. Now if I want to change this into a fraction, I can just read this number. So tenths, hundredths, thousandths. This is my 10 thousandths. So I have 75 10,000ths. You can divide that at least by 25 to reduce that even further. But just to show you here, I really want you to get comfortable with going between fractions, decimals, and percentages, going either way. Really important concept that's going to follow us throughout these entire chapters that we go through this quarter and next.